Uh, Now, I want to talk about this so-called white genocide that Trump is currently advocating and why it matters now. Right now, remember Trump was once a president. I think 2017, right? 2017, I think he was the president when he took after Obama. And during his entire term there, he didn't talk about white genocide in South Africa. Neither have the previous presidents before him, Obama, George Bush. They never talk about a white genocide in South Africa. They never spoke about it. Even Biden. So right now he's talking about it. Why? Because Elon Musk is in the picture. Remember back then, Elon Musk wasn't Trump's friend. Back then, he was more of a Democrat, right? If you look at these EVs like Tesla, how it grew. It was mostly due to the support of Democrats because Democrats in America are the ones that were advocating for a more cleaner and greener energy than any other party. Then the problem with Elon Musk with the Democrats came with, I think, Biden. There was this, I don't know, it's more like an organization in the States where Biden kind of ignored Elon Musk, right, as a green, as an electric car, you know, giant or somebody who's more innovative in that space. Actually, even though Tesla is one of the, I think, pioneers when it comes to electric vehicles, but Biden ignored that fact, right? And he kind of, sidelined Tesla, which made Elon Musk mad because Biden gave that honor to General Motors, those old American companies, right? And kind of sideline Elon for that matter. And I think he hated that. And coupled again with Elon's child, right? Elon has a lot of kids. I don't know. He just goes around spreading, having kids everywhere. I think that child, he changed. He was a guy, then actually changed their, their gender, and pretty much Elon didn't like that. So I think the child, we disowned the child, and the child disowned him. In fact, the child disowned his father. Elon's life is basically in the toilet, but especially when it comes to socially, he's not a responsible person as much as a father. So he didn't give. Possibly the child changed the gender because there was no father figure around. So that was one of the things that he hated the most, and I think coupled with that and Biden's decision to kind of sideline him as one of the pioneers of electric vehicles, I think that's what kind of made Elon to change sides in the political spectrum in the US. So he then sidelined with the right wingers, right? Of course, there was Trump. So if you join the right wingers, of course, you've got this issue about, white supremacy and putting women, even white women for that matter, in the household. Like they want that kind of what do you call that, fascist and racist and feminist kind of a society, which of course they can't get right now because now things are not the way they were, right? Even if they try it, they will fall, because they have to remember America state right now as a power, as a global superpower, is basically shrinking. And when it comes to races, basically Asians dominate this world in terms of numbers. Now back to the aspect of Elon Musk and the white genocide conspiracy. So he joined forces with the right wingers. So then he all of a sudden he supported Trump, even though he didn't like him in the past, but right now he did because of these other things. And then, of course, Donald Trump capitalized on that. Even if you look around Donald Trump himself, like his vice president, J.D. Vance right now, he once called Trump a Hitler back then. There's a documentation of all this, of all these things. So he once called Trump a Hitler, but right now he's the vice president. He sees him as a savior and blah 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 and all that nonsense. So if you look at Elon's life, it is basically complicated, right? There's some people that especially the Democrats, saw him as a kind of a a person, a reasonable person, but his background is not. Right, Elon comes from South Africa, and he left South Africa when apartheid ended. His father, I think his father, I don't know, his father, and his grandfather, I don't know. They moved to South Africa because of apartheid. But his father, Elon Musk, and I think there's some family issues there between Elon and his father, because Elon does not like his father. Right. So I think this guy's life is basically, as I've said, socially, he's in the toilet. He neither has, I think he has his mother's love, but his father, not really. And even his father doesn't speak well about Elon Musk, and he sees him as a fascist or something like that. And his father is still in South Africa, by the way. So I think those coupled with Elon's life, I think is what causing the problem. Because right now, Elon Musk is now on the right wing. Right? I don't know, maybe they think that they're the most powerful people on the world, which is of course true to some extent, right? If you check the likes of Bezos, but even Bezos is not in full support of that. But I say Mark Zuckerberg and other these billionaires, they kind of try to create this oligarchy kind of thing in the US, right? Where the powerful, rich and powerful are the ones that lead the world, right? So Elon Musk is, I would say, a fascist, right? A fascist, and that is what I'm going to call him, whether people don't like it or they don't. He's officially fascist. In every government, he always goes for the right wingers. In South Africa, in Germany, in other places. Right now, his company is on fire. You just imagine that you've built your life and you just ruined it. So that is the problem. Now, for many years, right, South Africa has faced problems. It has its own problems, especially when it comes to crime, which in particular is as a result of many factors. The first factor has to do with apartheid, right? Because you have to understand that back then, most black folks were taken from their land. There were certain acts that allowed white people to seize their land, and they put them in some sort of a non-arable land. Like the white folks took all the good land, and they put those black people and packed them like a bunch of sardines. So for over the years, black people were never allowed to participate in the economy. They were never allowed to have land or possess anything like that. So this created poverty, a huge poverty in the black people. There are some people that even today South Africans, they'll say, "Oh, foreigners are the reasons why black South Africans are poor and stuff." No, it isn't. Because even if you look back in the 80s and 90s, you'll see that black South Africans were poor, right? They were poor. You see them in the rural areas there in front of the stores selling all these fruits and stuff. They were poor. Black poverty in South Africa was not caused by these foreigners, which some of these political parties have made it like a talking point. All I can say, I will say yes, foreigners kind of cause or put some weight maybe in social services. But if you look at it, like in terms of foreigners, right, most foreigners in South Africa do not work, right? Because most of them do not have the right paperwork in the first place, but they do some small businesses, small business like small shops, opening small shops, mechanic shops, barber shops, and things of that nature. So I would say most of them are not even employed. There are some that are actually employed. So that is true to a certain extent. But poverty in South Africa was made by apartheid. That is the first factor. Because black South Africans' parents and grandparents were not able to generate wealth so that they can pass it on to their own children. So that is the biggest factor in South Africa. Then the next issue has to do with the government having failed to implement the policies to ensure that black South Africans can actually, get or create the world that they needed, right? Because the apartheid government never paid reparations, by the way, which is supposed to be paid. If you have been oppressing people for a long time, you're supposed to pay reparations so that you can at least correct the mistakes that you've done, the damage that we've done, because the damage that was done in apartheid can never be really reversed like that easily. Right, it's a big issue, and it's something that the government have failed to address for the past 30 years. And coupled with corruption and other things. So it has made things even worse for black South Africans. And in reality, at the end of the day, they're told different things by politicians because they're just looking for votes. But at the end of the day, black South Africans will be the ones that are suffering. They'll be ones that are really suffering. So I think that is where the problem of inequality in South Africa is. So it's a number of factors, not just a simple factor, a number of factors, which of course most of them was caused by apartheid. That's the biggest factor, and that is what Julius Malema has always fought against, which is something that I think is something that is actually very important. And on the other hand, the DA claims to have solutions to addressing black inequality, which of course I don't think so. Now look at this, right? The DA says, or the white folks, the right wingers say there's a racist laws that have been implemented by the government, the ANC government, right, to correct the past injustice and correct inequality in South Africa. But if you look at it in the lens of other countries that have all done the same thing, that have removed the same things that oppress black people, America, for example, right? America doesn't have much racist laws, but if you look at Americans right now, if you look at all the races, the races, black people, they are the most poor people in that country. White folks are the most richest. So this whole thing that the DA is trying to do is basically, trying to implement American policies in South Africa, which will not make any difference. They don't have any solution. And that is what I've been trying to say to my friends all along, that they're trying to sweep everything under the rug. But in the South African context, you can't do that. Maybe they could do that in America, but in South Africa, they can't do that. So for me personally, I think I support the ruling party, even though they are corrupt, but I support their initiatives of land expropriation, especially for the land that is not in use, that has never been used for public use. Right? For me, if I was the president or even I was in the ANC, I would take much of the land and create programs. There are a lot of programs that you can create, like farming programs, and that are created in most African countries, right? And actually support small farmers in South Africa, not just black people, also Indian people, colored people, and everybody, right? That is actually poor, to kind of bring in the balance. There are a lot of people that say, black South Africans need to work so that they can acquire land. That's basically a very stupid thing to do, because first of all, nothing is fair in South Africa. You can't say that if we remove these policies that they're saying that we should remove, right? You are not starting at an equal ground, because the white folks have been running like it's like trying to race with someone, let's say in a 400 meter race, right? And the person is standing on the 300 meter, the white folks is standing in the 300 meter mark, and the black person is in the start of the line. That doesn't make any sense. That's not fair at all. And again, if black South Africans were to work for the so-called land and stuff, it will take them generations and generations to, acquire even the resources that they need. And there's no guarantee that the white people will be willing to sell land to black people. Right? It happened in Zimbabwe, right? The whole land grab. The reason why it failed, Zimbabwean land reforms failed, is because the selling was happening at a slow rate. Right? There are some people that didn't want to sell their land. So that is where the challenge is, right? If you can't get these people to sell land, at least to some natives of the country, the best way is to do that is to put a law that force them to sell it. So I think that is what ANC is trying to achieve in this particular point. And it's a good thing, right? For me, there are people that say, oh, fine, black people must work. Look at Americans, guys. Look at Americans. They are working every day and night. But even after all these years, they haven't even made any progress in trying to bridge that equality. They haven't made any progress. Why? Because of many factors. There's inflation. There's a lot of nonsense that is going on. End of the day, you work 2 jobs, 5 jobs, and you can't afford to buy a home. You can't afford to buy a farm. And some people don't even want to sell you the land. So this whole nonsense that they're trying to kind of push, or this agenda that they do have with South Africa, doesn't really work. and it will never work for black people. So I think taking a different stance, that stance that the NC is taking, is a good thing. I think the NC should expropriate land, and that land should be under the government, and then they should introduce some programs, right? Programs to support black people, Indian people, and also Chinese people, so that at least they can participate more in the economy. So I'm with NC on this one, as much as I don't agree with some of the things that they do, but in that regard, I am with, because the American system doesn't work, because the state itself is falling. The infrastructure is rotting away because of greed. You've got people that have resources and they don't want to pay taxes. End of the day, people, both white and black Americans, are getting poorer by the day. Look at China. Its infrastructure is ahead, 50 years ahead of America. But America's infrastructure is crumbling. They don't even have a public transport system. But it's only the buses. The railway is almost finished. They've the one that they call the New York subway system, which was almost rotten. Even South Africa's own train system is much better than that. That's the whole thing about genocide, guys, because South Africa in particular does not have genocide. The genocide that is actually happening is as a result of crime, and in which that crime was actually created as a result of those factors: apartheid and government's inability to put places that made sure that black people and other people are well off, right? Because people do not steal because they want to, they steal because they have to. And a lot of killing, if you check at the statistics, guys, of the genocide in South Africa, you'll find that most people that are being killed there, they're actually black people at most, right? And it happens in townships and cities. And South Africa does not have much of a budget to hire many police officers so that they can patrol a lot of areas. So most people, especially in the farms, they are left vulnerable. They're not protected by any police or anything like that. So criminals find it easy to go there and steal, because again, farms usually have a lot of people that are farms are usually associated with the riches, right? They are rich, they've got money. So criminals, end of the day, go there. That is what the whole genocide thing about South Africa happens. There's nothing called white genocide in South Africa. That's basically nonsense. Crime is what I can say is happening in South Africa, because I've never seen even in one video of people marching and toying, say kill the poor, kill the farmer, killing the people, right? Or even taking away their properties. I've never seen that. I only saw that in Zimbabwe when they were doing the same things. They didn't kill people, but they went there and they drove the white people out. That's what happened, the land grabs that happened in the 2000s, I think early 2000s. And there's a video footage for that. Just imagine 25 years ago, and you can see a video footage. Right now, after 25 years, where we have got gadgets, the phones that have video features, you cannot even see a single video of a white genocide in South Africa. So that's what the right wingers say, because I don't know, maybe they think their life is very important than other people. Look, when it comes to genocide in this world, especially people that have the so-called genocide, the great replacement theory, like the right wingers, if there are people that are being genocided, if there's a race that is being wiped out in this world, that must go to the Arabs, right? Arab people are the ones that are being killed each and every day. If you look at the Arab population, they are almost at the bottom. There are about 400 something million Arab people left in this world. And if you look at the other races, right, for example, there are about 1.1 billion people, white people, around the world. There are about 1.3 billion people, black people, around the world. 700 of people are Hispanics, and about 4.6 billion people that are Asian, which of course we are including the Indians and the Chinese and other Asian people. So if there's a group of people, a race of people that should be crying about genocide, are Arabs. Because if you look at the Arab nations right now, go to the Middle East, there are wars there, Right? The Palestinians are being slaughtered in Gaza, and there are other people that are being slaughtered in Syria and other places. Those are the people that should be crying about their race being wiped out, not white people. Not white people. We as black people we're about 1.3 billion, and yet China, a country itself, is about 1.4 billion people. That's more than all the black people around the world combined, whether it's Caribbean, whatever. But we're not complaining. We are not complaining. So, guys, that is the reason what is happening in South Africa and the United States. This worldwide genocide nonsense that is happening. There's no such thing, and it's basically disgusting to hear such things being talked about, especially in the right-wing media, and some people calling for sanctions and other things on South Africa. That's a right-wing mentality of imperialism and that kind of useless thing of entitlement and stuff. If you go to South Africa right now, go around the country, the whole country, you'll find out that there are white people everywhere in South Africa, almost everywhere, in tribal areas. When people think about white people in South Africa, they think that they live in one section only, that is the Western Cape and or Cape Town, something like that. No, that is not actually the truth. There are about 4 million people in South Africa right now, white people in South Africa, and they live around the country. There are some people, especially in Durban, that do not speak Afrikaans, though they are Afrikaner descendants, but they don't speak Afrikaans. They either speak Zulu or English. And you'll find that there are also other people that do not have Afrikaner surnames or white surnames. They have tribal names. You cannot have that in the US because it will be frowned upon. But it happens in South Africa. And again, of course, we know that this whole thing started because of America, of South Africa's involvement in the Gaza-Israeli issue. That is what we know. And it is not going to work, especially with us, Africans and South Africans as well. But what we say is that people should be united against such fascist ideology, and people should not lose their moral grounds to call nonsense. But if something's nonsensical, it is nonsensical. And those people that went to America, nobody hates them or anything. Of course, they saw an opportunity to go out there, America, and make a good life. But going there under the pretense of being killed by black people is just another level. Why? Because it strains relationships between white people that are actually in South Africa and black people that are actually in South Africa. And it puts that kind of a bad stamp on black South Africans that go to other places like Europe. And talking about Europe, if there was really a genocide that is happening in South Africa, Europe was supposed to be actually the first country to call those things out, right? Because most of white folks come from Europe. So if Europe didn't talk about it, and Trump is the only person to talk about it, it shows you there's something wrong. And that's kind of a stupid, really story that you can sell to the world. European media is be silent about it. Donald Trump is the one to see things. As far as I know, South Africa is not powerful in any kind of context. They don't have any powerful military. They're not like China. For example, China is powerful. And if you talk about China, possibly, maybe there might be that aspect of fear, but I don't think anybody is afraid of South Africa. Really, no country is afraid of South Africa. Even Afrikaners themselves, and the funny thing about it is that Afrikaners themselves, they are rejecting that notion. Some Afrikaners, of course, as I've said, like in South Africa, they are right-wingers, on the white side, and also there are all kinds of people, all kinds of group of people. The majority of white people are all saying that that's basically nonsense. Are they racist laws in South Africa? Yes, they are. But what they're supposed to do is to correct past injustices. And some people do not agree with them. Some people do agree with them. But end of the day, genocide is not one of the things that you should associate South Africa with. So that's basically nonsense, guys. And I can thank you for watching this video. Till then, see you next time.